that big boss that's special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level. Second level gaming. Second level.
Hello and welcome to the Level 2 Gaming first impressions of the Resident Evil VII demo, Beginning Hour, also known as The Kitchen. My name is Tom, and I'll be talking you today through the demo that I have played several times since its launch directly after E3 2016 for Sony and the Sony conference. Resident Evil VII was announced during the Sony conference as part of their VR section, which is a little surprising. I don't think anyone was expecting to see it at all, let alone to be the kind of primo setup for the entire VR section of the Sony conference. The really amazing thing was that Sony had announced it as being a end-to-end VR experience. That means that opposed to being one of these sort of smaller games that we've been seeing a lot with VR lately, this will be a full AAA title, end-to-end VR if you so wish. I do believe you have the capability of playing it without VR, however, I imagine that if you really want to get the pants scared off of you, VR is probably the way to go. Most people will remember their first Resident Evil experience. The original game came out in 1996, and for a lot of folks it was their first foray into the world of survival horror. In fact, it practically invented the genre. Since then, we've had over 22 different Resident Evil games on different platforms. It's very much a beloved franchise and one that's been around for a very long time. Fans tend to take things to heart when it comes to Resident Evil, so everyone had their beady eyes open when Sony started dropping some hints with the Resident Evil VII demo.
Get out of the way. It's locked. After you.
And get the pants scared off you, you will. A lot of Resident Evil VII's demo will remind folks of PT. That was Hideo Kojima's playable teaser for the game Silent Hills, which sadly never came to full fruition. Since PT has actually been pulled from the PlayStation Network store, this might be the game to tide those fans over. Already, Twitter is sparking with various ideas of intrigue and the multiple endings that are available during this demo. I don't think anyone has fully figured out what would be considered to be the correct ending, and that's part of the fun. The multiple endings in this demo are definitely kind of a nice thing. It's fun to play through it multiple times since it does tend to be quite short. It does call itself the Beginning Hour, however, a lot of gamers are completing it in anywhere from 2 minutes to 20, and it's really hard to make it all the way through an entire hour of this game. You tend to be repeating yourself over and over. Not in the same obvious sense that you did in PT, where you would go through a door and end up right back where you started, but more so you die, you learn, and you try again.
How long did you say this place has been abandoned?
There is another interesting section in the middle of this demo where you play a VHS tape which is supposed to teach you more about the history of the mansion that you're in. During the playthrough, you actually take control of the character and experience what's going on as if you were the one controlling it.
A lot of bad rumors about their son, Lucas. Bad seed, apparently.
Ah, shit! I know I should have worn my good shoes.
One of the interesting things about this VHS section is that you have the ability to affect the future. As you're wandering around the VHS section, you may find something that can help your character later on when you're outside of the VHS. For example, there is a lockpick to be found during this section, which you can then use to unlock a cabinet door.
Clancy, get a shot of this.
Later on, when you're outside of the VHS, if you come back to this same cabinet door, you might just find yourself a handy little implement in there which could help with the rest of your search. If nothing else, make you feel a little better. This demo seems to have a lot more in common with Silent Hill than Resident Evil, and I think that's a bit of a shock for some folks. Mostly when people are thinking about Silent Hill versus Resident Evil, they always consider Resident Evil to be the more action-orientated game. You get set up with more weapons, you're expected to be able to survive a lot easier, as opposed to Silent Hill, where generally you're on the back foot for most of the time. They tend to trick you a lot more, use fear to their advantage, and you usually end up using melee weapons a lot more than guns. They even go so far with the comparison to have some lovely mannequins in this game. Of course, everyone loves mannequins in horror games, right? Especially mannequins that turn around when you're not looking and appear out of nowhere. Other comparisons with PT can be drawn from things like the phone. There is a phone that rings mysteriously up on the 3rd floor of this mansion, and you do get different calls for different reasons. Depending on the choices that you've made up until that point, you might find yourself having a very different conversation with the mystery lady on the other end of the phone.
I know who you are.
Who are you?
You will have to say goodbye eventually. But will you be ready?
One of the items in this demo that seems to have folks scratching their heads is the dummy finger. Twitter has been ablaze recently with ideas for its use, but no one seems to have yet figured out exactly what to do with it. I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we find something with it, but currently it seems to be one of the only things in the game that folks are a little stumped on. This demo tends to end the same way for most people. Now, it doesn't particularly matter where you are. At some point, if you haven't figured it out the correct way, which currently, as recording, no one has, you're gonna get a punch in the face.
Welcome to the family, son.
What is a little odd about this demo is that there's only really one area where you could see something that could be described as zombie-like. Most of the time, it almost feels more like a trip through a haunted mansion.
What's the story, Andre?
Several gamers have described seeing a ghost woman in various areas around the mansion. People wonder if this is something that you kind of have to collect, as in you have to see the ghost lady in all the places that she can be seen. Me personally, through my playthroughs, I didn't see her. I did, however, see this guy stomping past the door, and it scared the crap out of me. There are lots of lovely little touches in this demo, like trying to play the piano. Graphically, the game is superb. You really get a rich, detailed experience. It's a vibrant, immersive place to be. I can only imagine how it feels in VR. At this current time, most of us playing do not have the pleasure of that. However, I think we all get a good sense of what that's going to be like.
Speaking of which, make sure the sound is right this time. I don't want a repeat of Amarillo.
There's a lot of little details in this game. Things that maybe you wouldn't consider. One of my personal favorite things was honestly just smacking things with the axe. It's kind of interesting to see what it does to various different things. It feels heavy and it feels useful. It feels like when you really connect with something, you are truly connecting with it. The sound design in this game is truly terrifying as well. I can only picture how VR users are going to have to deal with not only being fully immersed in the environment, but hearing those little whimpering children in the background, or those thuds coming from the other room. Whether the gameplay in this demo is indicative of the full game remains to be seen. It would be interesting if this was the path they chose to take. I do wonder how wide this is going to open up. Obviously, the first Resident Evil put you in a pretty large mansion, and then it expanded to the outside grounds as well, so this is not unique territory. You are in a plantation mansion here. However, the demo is obviously only a really closed-off area, namely, mostly around the kitchen.
What the fuck was that? Did you hear that?
So how much further are they willing to go? Are they going to open up an entire city to us? Are they just going to give us several locations that we have to go through? I'm actually interested to see how they're going to tackle this challenge. I feel like if they did the whole thing in the mansion, it would definitely be good, but almost a wasted opportunity.
Oh, shit.
This demo left me wanting more, and that's a great sign. I think they released this at just the right time. It's going to be a fair while until the full experience comes out, but just to give folks a heads up on what it might feel like, this was kind of the perfect thing to do. A lot of folks that really enjoyed PT and were sad to see it go and drop out of the PSN store will be super happy to pick this up and have a very similar experience. Currently, the puzzles are still unsolved. We do know that there are multiple endings in the game, and we do know that at least one of those is probably what we would consider to be the real ending. However, no one seems to have found it just yet. I personally had a lot of fun with this game. I can picture Keegan being absolutely terrified of it, and I don't even think, as malicious as I am, that I could force him to go through this game, which is primarily why I'm doing this alone. I just wanted the opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts and feelings going through this experience for the first time. It is definitely something that's going to stick with me for a little while, and hopefully, if you guys get a chance, you can hop on the PlayStation Store and find the PS Plus exclusive demo for yourself, and then let us know in the comments below how you felt about it. Pre-orders for North America via the PlayStation Store are available right now, and they tend to come with the exclusive Resident Evil VII dynamic PS4 theme. People that order the extra deluxe version will also receive a survival pack, which includes an early unlock to the hardest difficulty mode, as well as a special item set to appear when the game releases.
Try to say the show's name this time, okay?
No problem.
At time of recording, pre-orders are only available for PlayStation. However, Xbox One and PC are to follow soon.
You first. Need a nice hero shot of me coming down the ladder. So, you first.
So thank you for watching my first impressions of the Resident Evil VII demo, beginning hour. Let us know your thoughts below, subscribe to the channel, and as always, welcome to the second level.
Welcome to the family, son.